ഹായ് ഓൾ, വെൽക്കം ടു അനദർ KPH പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റ്. ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ഒപ്പം ഉള്ളത് ജോർജ് ബ്രോഡിയാണ്. ജോർജ് ബ്രോഡിനെ പറ്റി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ മലയാളി, സെറ്റിൽഡ് ഇൻ US ആൻഡ് is keen on interested in Indian startups, especially Kerala startups, and it's a very exciting journey. Piro podcast will be looking into his journey and how he made it big, as well as paying it forward. He's been helping out a lot of founders in Kerala as well, and we'll be getting more to it. And welcome George Brody to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Allowed me to be able to see Abdul Kalam and Sarabhai, Vikram Sarabhai in action at that time. And I was lucky to be the first guy who made the digital call, digital cellular call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there is this book called The Alchemist, which says, if you wish for something, the universe will conspire to make it happen. Paulo Coelho is the guy who said that. Right? Can I now help startups, founders, young founders, mentor them kind of. So I said, I'm going to give back. That is something that I think the awareness you as a KPH can build to the founder network there. Because എല്ലാവർക്കും കേട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് all these startups and big unicorns happen in Silicon Valley, so I want to be there. Okay, but it's not necessarily true.
ഹായ് ഓൾ, ഐ തിങ്ക് ഈ പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തു ക്ലോസ് ടു 6 months ആയി നമ്മൾ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്ത് ഒരു 30 എപ്പിസോഡ്സ് നമുക്ക് കവർ ചെയ്തു. ആൻഡ് എവറി ഫ്രൈഡേ at 5 PM ഓരോ എപ്പിസോഡും ഈ ചാനലിൽ പുറത്ത് പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. സോ ഐ ജസ്റ്റ് തോട്ട് ടു ഷെയർ വാട്ട് KPH ഈസ് ആൻഡ് മേ ബി ഫോർ ദ ന്യൂ ഓഡിയൻസ് ദിസ് മൈറ്റ് ബി യൂസ്ഫുൾ. KPH ഒരു വാട്സപ്പ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ആയിട്ട് 2017 നമ്മൾ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തതാണ്. ഇറ്റ് വാസ് ഓൾ ഇൻവൈറ്റ് ഓൺലി. അതായത് നമുക്ക് പരിചയമുള്ള ഫൗണ്ടേഴ്സിനും പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ് ബിൽഡേഴ്സിനും ആക്ച്വൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാർ, നോട്ട് ദി തള്ളൽ ഫോക്സ്, അവർ മാത്രം കൊണ്ടുവന്നിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ അക്രോസ് കേരള ഫ്രം 2017 ഓൺവേർഡ്സ് വി ബീൻ ഹോസ്റ്റിംഗ് മീറ്റപ്സ്. ഒരു 10, 20, 30 ആൾക്കാരായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ അന്നൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ ഐ തിങ്ക് ആഫ്റ്റർ ദ പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റ് ആൻഡ് ആഫ്റ്റർ വി പുട്ട് അവർ സെൽഫ് ഔട്ട് ദർ ഓൺ ദി ഇൻ്റർനെറ്റ്, ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ന്യൂ പീപ്പിൾ ആർ കമ്മിങ് ഇൻ, റൈറ്റ്? സോ ഇതാണ് ഒരു KPHൻ്റെ ഒരു കറണ്ട് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് കോൺവെർസേഷൻസ്, ആക്ച്വൽ റോ ആൻഡ് ഹോണസ്റ്റ് ജെന്യൂൻ. യു വിൽ നോട്ട് ഫൈൻഡ് ആസ് എനിവർ ഇൻ ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പർ ഓർ എനിവർ, ബട്ട് ഇറ്റ്സ് എ വെരി സ്മോൾ ബട്ട് ആക്ച്വൽ ബ്രൂട്ടലി ഹോണസ്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയാണ്. And that is KPH for you, and you can check them out on kph.club. We have some interesting initiatives we are very passionately bringing about, be it the community, be it offline events, master classes, be it fund, KPH angel networking, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ even VC fund ഒക്കെ ഫ്യൂച്ചറിൽ നമുക്ക് പ്ലാൻ ചെയ്യാം. സോ ദീസ് ആർ സം ഓഫ് തിങ്സ് ഐ എം പേഴ്സണലി എക്സൈറ്റഡ് അബൌട്ട്. ആൻഡ് കേരളാസ് ഇതിനെ നമുക്ക് പൊക്കിയെടുത്ത് വേറെ ലെവൽ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റിയൊരു ഇനീഷ്യേറ്റീവ് ആണ്. And even I am getting goosebumps as I am saying this, right? So this is what I am excited about, and this is my ikigai when I am working on towards it. And now back to the episode. George Brody, just to audience ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, I would think I'm a tech guy from the beginning as an engineer, and I started out, but again have the flair for finding the right business mix. And so a corporate executive, entrepreneur, as well as investor, now a philanthropist.
Understood. So like now let's just move back to the time. Okay, നമ്മൾ ഏത് ഇയറാണ് ജനിച്ചത്, ആൻഡ് ഹൗ ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് ഏർലി ഇനീഷ്യൽ ഡേയ്സ് ഓഫ് ചൈൽഡ്ഹുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു evolve into current?
So it's very interesting in the sense that I was always a fast track. ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ സ്കൂളിൽ ചേർത്തപ്പോൾ that time there was not like age related. They did a test and said, I can admit you into this grade. So I finished my SSLC here at the age of 13. And then 14 years pre-degree pre-university ആയിരുന്നു. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് then nobody will take me to engineering college because I was only 14 years old.
Wait, 14 വയസ്സിൽ plus 1 plus
2 കഴിഞ്ഞു. Yeah.
Oh, so you must be prodigy.
Well, fast track, let me put it that way. So then
you can get complete the plus 2 in 14-year-old.
14 years old. And then what happened was people said, you can't go to engineering college. You have to do a BSc.
Okay.
Then you can go to a 3-year program. അങ്ങനെ ഫാത്തിമ കോളേജിൽ did a BSc, and then I happened to be a rank holder. And then I could go to either Trivandrum Engineering College or in Indian Institute of Science. But as things will happen, somebody suggested that if you're bright enough, you can go to this large institution, very famous one called Indian Institute of Science.
IASC, അതൊക്കെ ഞാൻ എന്താ പറയുക സത്യ പരിശ്രമിച്ചത്, ബട്ട് ഐ കുഡ് നോട്ട് ഗെറ്റ് ഇറ്റ്. How much rank did you had?
Well, I was a second rank holder here in Kerala. And so that I was all of 17 years old at that time. So then, ഇവിടെ ഭയങ്കര മൂക്കിലെ രാജ്യത്ത് cocky young 17-year-old, I ended up in Bangalore in Indian Institute of Science. Peട്ടെന്ന് humility set in. Suddenly I found my peers from other universities. They were all 2 or 3 years older than me in the class. But I found that I was not the smartest kid. So at that time, self-awareness came in. And I made sure that I now become not as cocky, but at the same time make sure that I'm open to ideas and things like that. That Indian Institute of Science or IISc was a very big turning point for me. So at the age of 20, I finished my engineering degree. Yeah.
So after 20 years, did you got a job or?
So then everybody in my class, Institute of Science, we are only 90 students at the time who did undergraduate there, very selective group. And most of them went abroad. I said, I want to come back to Kerala and work for 1 year. So there were a couple of other jobs, but I got into ISRO.
ISRO work ചെയ്തിട്ട്?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
That was,
How was it? How was that experience?
that was, so I was I will still think that Felix, this is a very interesting thing that there is this book called The Alchemist, which says, if you wish for something, the universe will conspire to make it happen. Paulo Coelho is the guy who said that, right? So I'm one of those people, right? The fact that I decided not to go abroad and come to ISRO allowed me to be able to see Abdul Kalam and Sarabhai, Vikram Sarabhai in action at that time.
So how is meeting Abdul Kalam?
Yes, he was a project manager at that time. So now you see the picture of Abdul Kalam as a little frail person. That time he was not. He was a young, very energetic person, project management of manager of some of the rocket launching things. Very well, obviously rocket scientist. Then of course he was probably handpicked by Vikram Sarabhai, which is a very elite manager. So as a 20-year-old kid, I was looking at these guys and said, these guys are the kind of people I want to be like, kind of stuff. I was very lucky that I was there for 1 year.
Interesting. So how was after ISRO, what was the plan?
After ISRO, then I said I will go abroad like anybody else, and I ended up going to Canada.
Okay.
And then...
Any year, just for the timeline?
Yeah, that was in 69. Okay,
1969.
No, I graduated my engineering degree from Indian Institute of Science in 68, 65 to 68. Then 1 year I worked at ISRO. 69, I went to Canada to do my master's.
അന്ന് കാനഡയിൽ പോയില്ലേ? Like ഇപ്പോൾ കുറേ ആൾക്കാർ കാനഡയിൽ പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. But what was it like back then?
That was again at that time interesting tidbit. India would not allow anybody to take more than $8 out of India at that time. I don't know.
$8?
There was even a movie called Around the World in $8 and things like that. So because that was the only foreign exchange they were allowed to take. So by necessity, you cannot go abroad unless you get a scholarship from the university. So all of us who went abroad at that time had scholarships to cover our full expenses. And only
കാനഡയിൽ എവിടെ പഠിച്ചത്?
Yeah, University of New Brunswick. Yeah, so I did my 2 master's degrees, one in biomedical engineering and the other one in computer science. Then I got hired off campus. Yeah.
അപ്പോൾ ഏത് കമ്പനിയിലാണ് after?
So Northern Telecom was a telecommunications company who came to campus and they found my double degrees very interesting, and they hired me off campus. That was again a turning point. I got into Bell Northern Research, which is their research arm, and then obviously it allowed me to flourish quite well. So I ended up eventually running the whole of wireless for Northern Telecom
How did that happen? അതെങ്ങനെയാണ് ആ ഒരു നോർമൽ റോളിൽ നിന്ന് എങ്ങനെയാണ്
So I left Canada because it was too cold for me. So I moved to Florida to work for Siemens, and then Northern Telecom came and bought a company in Dallas called Danray to enter into a non-regulated business. So that was cellular mobile radio was one of them, which is why they called me up and said, hey, you're at Siemens now, do you want to come to Dallas and start this thing called. So I hired the first 30 people to start, but became a $5 billion business
Wow.
for Northern Telecom, which is the whole wireless wave. Yes, mobile radios, all coming in at that time. So I also was fortunate, again, Paulo Coelho thing, right? There was a guy called Martin Cooper, who made, in 1973, he made the first cell phone call. He was from Motorola, and that was an analog call. And I was lucky to be the first guy who made the digital call, digital cellular call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a historic thing. Again, God or the universe conspired to make me. So I was kind of looking back, I feel like I'm fortunate. The universe put me in the certain right place. The wireless wave, starting to see ISRO, the digital cellular call, those kind of things. I would say it's the hand of God or the universe conspiring. So-
Awesome. And now you are in KPH podcast, so that's a
Yes,
universe-
absolutely. And again, we met in chance meeting,
Yeah.
and it ended up hit it off, and
Yeah,
now I'm
you're
here.
meeting here. It's
Yeah,
good to finally meet.
exactly.
ഓസം അപ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു ലൈക്ക് 90s ഇൻ യു എസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 80s ഓർ 90s ആണല്ലോ അപ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരു അമേരിക്കൻ ഡ്രീം ഓണ്ടർപ്രണർഷിപ്പ് ആ ഒരു ഇതിലേക്ക് എങ്ങനെ
Yeah, that again, I always had this entrepreneurial bug in me, but this wireless non-regulated business that was inside a wireline company was pretty interesting because it was always like a startup inside the big company, and everybody is betting that you're not going to make it, kind of stuff, right? And then you have this underdog feeling. So we made it. Right? The first cell phone call, market was taking long to take off, and people say this is never going to happen. Guess what happened? Later on, it just took off. It became a huge business for them. So that kind of gave the satisfaction that you can build something big inside a big corporation and be act like a startup kind of thing. So that's the corporate entrepreneurship kind of stuff, right? So then that catapulted me in 1999 kind of time frame. I said, I want to start something. I've done everything I can do, building large businesses and products inside a big corporation. Can I do this in a startup? So
2000
in 2000, I left my cushy job, talked to my wife and said, I'm going to do something pretty risky. I'm going to start from scratch and build my own company, a venture-backed company. So I started a company called Globe Ranger.
എന്താണ് ഗ്ലോബൽ റേഞ്ച്
Globe Ranger is, that time, the term IoT is very commonplace now. That time, the term wasn't even there.
IoT ഇന്റർനെറ്റ് ഓഫ് തിങ്സ്
Internet of Things, right? So we used to call it the smart network of connected items to describe what we're doing.
Oh.
It is about sensors, RFID, and all the stuff. So Globe Ranger was a very simple idea in the sense that when you and I are sitting here with our cell phones on you, you're a trackable object, right?
Yeah.
Because the network knows where you are, and when somebody calls you, it completes the call, right? Whereas there are a lot of items that are moving on at that time, in 2000 time frame. In supply chain, nobody knew where they are. Like you lost your luggage, for example. They knew exactly where you were because of your boarding pass and all the stuff, but they didn't know where your luggage was because it was not wirelessly connected like you are connected to the network today, right? So the idea was very simple. Someday there will be something wireless thing attached to an item that can track these things.
ആപ്പിൾ എയർ ടാഗ് ഒക്കെ പോലെ
ഇതുപോലത്തെ സാധനം. That was the idea. Apple AirTag came much later.
Yeah, I think 3 years back.
So we said, okay, we are going to go build a software platform to track items. Kind of,
ഓക്കെ
yeah.
സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ
Software. It's got that because all even sensors, temperatures, and all the sensors, we can get data out of tracking information, then aggregate them into a platform and provide meaningful, actionable items to enterprises. That was the idea.
So you are
And
mostly serving to enterprise
enterprise.
for customers.
So we were again lucky, right? We landed. Everybody was chasing Walmart and other companies. We focused on the defense market.
Defense.
U.S. defense, the largest supply chain in the world is the U.S. Department of Defense. So we were in all the branches of Air Force, Navy, Army, everywhere around the world. Our software was at the edge of the enterprise. So idea is being how to track items that are coming. And just give you an example, the value of this thing. When a soldier is in the field, he has a button he can press to order toilet tissue, right? So he'll order that. but he doesn't get any feedback at that time before we came into the picture. Then he doesn't know. So he presses it again. So orders second time, and the third time it happens, the priority goes up. Okay, so because he doesn't have any view, it's en route or not. The priority goes up, then the toilet tissue gets airlifted to come. Imagine if you had information that he could get, then he could say, my toilet tissue is on the way, I don't need to order again. So the inventory goes down en route, the priority goes down, that kind of stuff. So we brought significant amount of value to the enterprise, which is the Department of Defense.
So how many years have you, like ആ ഒരു കമ്പനി രണ്ടായിരത്തി സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തു ആൻഡ് വാട്ട് വാസ് എന്താ പറയുക ആ ഒരു സമയത്ത് രണ്ട് .com-ഉം ഇത് ബബിളും
എല്ലാം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു അതാണ് ദാറ്റ്സ് വെരി ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഞാൻ 2000 സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ ഐ തോട്ട് ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി in 2-year journey we can finish the company kind of stuff. Then what happened was there was a couple of recessions and things like that happened, 2008, 2000. So the VCs and I definitely said we are going to stick with it and go for it, right? So that actually took 14 years for me. The company grew big time. After 14 years, that we were at the right place again at the right time. So we had other buyers who were looking at us. But Fujitsu wanted something because they had access to every defense market in the world other than the US.
Okay. So it's like your company is more of an entrance
to the US market.
Oh, wow.
And then they didn't have an IoT platform.
So the advantage around they acquired.
Yeah, so it was a marriage made in heaven kind of stuff. So they bought us.
So
still today it's there. It will say Globe Ranger, a Fujitsu company, if you look at it.
I mean that's your career defining moment കൂടിയാണല്ലോ and you were paid off as well as a long journey in the ഭാഗമായിട്ട് after company. And what is that after acquisition journey like? And ഇത് ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കാൻ കാരണം വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ a lot of people say it's a company gets sold, it's no longer your company, right? So
so that's very interesting you asked that question. For me, it was not for me to stay in a big company or anything, but I wanted to be in Fujitsu as part of the deal for 2 years. The job was to make sure my team was fully integrated into a bigger company. They were many of them did not ever work in a big company. So how do you integrate into a big company? So they found good homes and benefits and all the stuff. The second thing was to make sure the product that we created is well integrated into the sales machine. So I travel all around the world. Fujitsu is in every country in the world. So we travel to make sure that these sales groups are able to integrate into their solution, into their product. So it was a good 2 years I spent, and I would encourage any founder who sells it to use that, because that's the way you can personally make sure your product gets used by the company that acquired you, right? And the other part is to make sure that this value that you created for this thing, right? So in our case, the brand that we created inside the Department of Defense, everybody knew Globe Ranger. So Fujitsu did the right thing. They didn't change the name. They kept it, even the website is the same even today. Globe Ranger, they'll just added a line which says a Fujitsu company. And so it's they leveraged the brand that we had and all stuff.
Okay. So in 2015 സമയത്താണത്?
No, 2014 I sold. Then I stayed on for 2 years. So 2016 when I got out of Fujitsu, and the first opportunity for me to step aside.
Okay. So what's next? So you sold the company. You made a good amount of money. You can effectively like not do anything for our life. So what was the next model?
That was not me.
Okay.
Right? So I had a lot of offers from people to go run something. So what the logic that I used at that time was, if I go run a operating role for any company, small or big, I'll be only doing that. So I wanted to broaden and say, can I help many more startups and founders? So I decided that I'm going to double down on entrepreneurship, helping people. Being the journey that I went through, a corporate level entrepreneurship inside a big company. Then we had scaled down to a small company and made it big. Can I now help startups, founders, young founders, mentor them, kind of. So I said, I'm going to give back.
Paid
So
forward.
paid forward, exactly. So that's what I'm doing today in the entrepreneurial field. That's why I keep coming back to Kerala, for example.
How often do you are in Kerala?
Yeah, so Kerala, there's an interesting story because in 2010 timeframe, while I was still at Globe Ranger, I wanted to get involved. So I was one of the early angel investors in Kerala at that time. So a company called MobMe, I was invested and normally don't put money in and then walk away. I kind of become active in this. So I became the chairman, helped these founders. Obviously, you know the story behind that company. It did well. So അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ I went to Huddle recently.
Oh yeah, you are in Huddle as well. This
Huddle,
year, right?
yeah, we probably saw each other there. And our difference, 2008, 10 time frame ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത് ഇപ്പോഴും നോക്കിയാൽ Kerala is completely different. Okay, very energetic. It was at that time the founders of MobMe were like an exception.
Oh yes, the founder Sanjay and
Yeah,
CEO.
yeah, they came out of university and engineering college, and they were a handful of people who were pursuing this entrepreneurship. Now, if you go to Huddle, you see hundreds of Sanjay and hundreds of Sonys. Okay, so they're all with sparkling eyes and wide-eyed, wanting to start something big, make a change in it.
ഈ പ്രാവശ്യം കേരളത്തിൽ വന്നപ്പോൾ you have mentioned that Kerala is it getting better in the sense Kerala is seen as different thing. So what is your thoughts? What can Kerala do better?
Yeah. So again, as a Keralite, I was very proud to go to the Huddle and see so many entrepreneurs, and also the KSUM, Kerala Startup Mission, organizing, for example, a roundtable to take input from people like me who attended Huddle with the chief minister, for example. We had a meeting, a roundtable with the chief minister bringing the chief secretary and the secretary of IT secretary, and seeking input from us, what should Kerala do differently. So two particular points I would definitely gave there, and I'm going to repeat here, is Kerala is very good brain power, right? So we can do a lot of things. So how do we differentiate ourselves from other parts of India? Obviously Bangalore and the tier 1 cities and all this stuff. But in our opinion, many of us resonated with that, is Kerala should focus on product. Okay, so I like the KPH moniker that you have.
Yeah, I mean ഇതൊക്കെ മുമ്പേ മനസ്സിലാക്കി.
Yeah, right. You've been ahead of your time.
Yeah.
So so what we said was the services game is all over. Like Infosys and Wipro and all this stuff milked this big time. And Mr. Shibulal, who was there, he echoed the same thing. He said that wave is gone. So now how do we create differentiation? So pick an area. You can't be a product company in every area.
Yep.
Pick certain domains and become the best. This is the center for, say, AI or cybersecurity or whatever that you choose to do.
Yeah.
You need to do that. Build the best products.
Right.
Create a Zoho-like company here and make it big. And then I think we'll create the ecosystem that your product hunt ecosystem you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
naturally.
even one of the episodes, Arjun Pillai, നമ്മുടെ എപ്പിസോഡിൽ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു Kerala is waiting for the next Soho or Fresh Desk.
Yes, it's a moniker where people are using, because something big that can be an anchor, right? So we don't have that anchor yet. Okay,
I think it's a matter of time അത് സംഭവിക്കും.
Yeah,
And that will be the next chapter of Kerala. I think.
yeah, and then the second thing I mentioned to the round table was Kerala. Let's say there are over 600 startups. Then let's take the best 100 or 150. Bring them to the US, for example. There are a lot of Keralites who are in engineers group and everything, who are like me, who are there, would like to touch and feel the startups, and they want to invest, they want to mentor. So you can actually, ഇവിടെ ഇല്ലാത്ത ഒരു സംഭവം, the network of mentors ആണ്. We don't have that ecosystem set up. Whereas if you go to Bangalore and all, there are a lot of mentor networks there. So if we can increase that visibility of the startups into, take them for a tour.
Yes.
Okay?
I mean,
Delegation.
delegation program. Ippuru, I think there is this program where the the government will take care of the expense and
Yes, അങ്ങനെ കൊണ്ടുപോവുക. Then let them pitch to the maybe San Francisco, Dallas, New York, മൂന്ന് centers ഒക്കെ മതിയായിരിക്കും. Then invite these people to come listen to it. It's curated list of attendees.
Right.
They will maybe investors, maybe their mentors, that kind of stuff. Then we formally create a mentor network, okay, which then can help these startups. I think it will do two things. One of the sessions I talked at Huddle was how to scale a company in the US. There was so much interest in that, people asking questions. They want to know. So how do we...
what is the difference? Even a short form of it, what does it take to scale a
Yeah.
company?
So first of all, you can't just go there. If you ask 9 out of 10 founders here, where do you want to be in the US? They'll say, I want to be in the Valley. Without any rhyme or reason, they're saying that because they heard about the Silicon Valley and they want to be there. But it may not be the best place for you. For example, if an AI company is there, yeah, it might be the best place to go. I've met, like there is another founder, Safil Sunny, right? He has a company which is in the oil and gas space. It doesn't make any sense for him to go to Silicon Valley.
Right.
He should be in Houston. Okay, so you know the country very well, where the customers are, and then you place it. Not blindly go and be in Valley.
Makes sense. Maybe our delegation program പ്രശ്നം അത് തന്നെയായിരിക്കുമല്ലോ. Maybe in sense they might go in some other area which doesn't make sense. Their potential customers are not even there, right?
Exactly.
So, even our delegation program, if it is also enabling these startups, I am talking to a lot of founders who went this.
Yeah.
So, can they get actual customers, not just the some place thing?
Yeah.
Other facilitate would make sense, right?
So these mentors who I'm talking about here, they will help them, okay, to find the best place to put the company. Or you can have, for example, if you're selling to the Department of Defense, you can't do that from Silicon Valley. You got to be in Washington, near Washington D.C. Because that's where all the defense contractors and lobbies and all the stuff is there, right? So you need to be somewhere close to that. Not the product company itself, but you have to have an office very close to by, so you can see your customers, kind of stuff. So that is something that I think the awareness you as a KPH can build to the founder network there. Because എല്ലാവർക്കും കേട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് all these startups and big unicorns happen in Silicon Valley, so I want to be there. Okay, but it's not necessarily true. So that's...
I mean, I think it makes sense. ഇപ്പോൾ സം ഏരിയ ഇപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ SFL പോയ സമയത്താണെങ്കിലും അവിടെ ഒരു AI പറഞ്ഞ സംഭവം you can see what's going to happen like few months ahead in advance.
Right.
But if it comes to once you build the product and you have customers in US, there might be some other area the customers might be, right?
So a lot of points of innovation, pockets of innovation are there in US, for example. Like you can go to Boston, you can go to Dallas, you can go to other parts of the US. There are very vibrant ecosystems there.
So ഇപ്പോൾ ഡൊണാൾഡ് ട്രംപ് ആണല്ലോ ഇപ്പോൾ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ആവണത്. So how do you think that's going to look like for especially for the startup owners coming from India to US?
I think it's going to be okay because business focus is his whole mantra is about enabling businesses thrive and all this stuff. So I think the startup ecosystem will probably benefit from some of these investments coming back in. We will make, for example, capital gains and things like that more attractive for investors to put money into startups. So that might fuel the startup ecosystem, in my opinion. Yeah.
In terms of policy wise, എന്തൊക്കെ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യേണ്ടതുണ്ട്, like for the Kerala to be bedrock for the investments?
Yeah, the one thing is we want to, obviously it's being done by the government, the Kerala Startup Mission, all the stuff, but it's being run by obviously people who have been entrepreneurs, which is a big step, not bureaucrats who are running it. There are people who are really been there, done that kind of stuff, which makes me feel that they're going to be helping the startups with their experience, kind of stuff. But my feeling is that you should expand Kerala's startup mission, reach into other countries where fundraising opportunities are there, things like that. So these startups, for example, will need to raise money in other countries.
Right.
So how do we create that network, kind of stuff? So that which is kind of stuff why I'm involved in TurboStart, for example.
എന്താണ് TurboStart?
TurboStart is a global VC which is based in India. Singapore, Middle East, and the US. And so TurboStart, I've actually joined the board and I've invested in the company. A goal is it's a venture studio, accelerator, incubator, VC all rolled into one. But we don't typically invest and walk away. We are like more an operator. We help this companies scale by having our own centers of excellence, say sales and marketing or development, everything. We have our own teams that will help the startups.
So what is the average check size?
It goes anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million kind of stuff. And we invest early stage.
Interesting.
And we have 57 startups now.
Wow.
And
How much is from Kerala?
Kerala, I think I'm not sure. There's maybe Kirana Pro, maybe another company that we just listened.
Awesome. Hope there will be more Kerala startups.
That's part of my reason for attending Huddle as the chairman of TurboStart to see how we can connect some of these Kerala startups into the TurboStart ecosystem.
Okay. I think we should talk after this podcast. There is something exciting about KPH as well.
Yeah, right.
Working on as well.
Right.
Yeah. But you ran a company for 14 years, right? And you have seen the ups and downs of running a company, right? So what is the number one things you noticed and even founders should learn as they run a company?
Yeah. So couple of things. When you have to be fully committed, obsessed with your startup, right? In the sense of the idea that you have, and you got to be persistent and test it, because every day is going to be different. Okay. So if you're mentally not strong to be able to go through that roller coaster every day, then it's not probably for you. Okay. Or the other thing is to make sure that your team, you build a very high performance team with complementary skills and everybody trust each other. So those kind of things. So that's given, okay, as a composition of the team. Then obviously there is a concept that I'm very passionate about called Ikigai. Okay, which is anybody who has worked with me for many years, I'm very religious about it. It's a very simple concept. It's a Japanese word called Ikigai. It means the reason, why do you exist, reason for existence. Okay, so imagine 4 circles. One says which the world needs. The second circle says what somebody will pay you for. The third one says you are good at it. And the fourth one says you love it. Okay, so if you can get all these circles to overlap, you got it made, in the sense that so if a startup comes to me, the first thing I ask is, does the world need this stuff? Second question, does somebody going to pay you for it? Third thing, are you good at it? Or do you love this thing? So if you get a very high performance startup, all these things are there. Okay? The team is loving what they do, they're obsessed about it, they're very good at it. Then they're also solving a problem, which is the world needs, and somebody's going to pay you for it. So that is my investment mechanism, at the same time evaluating a startup. So that is what I would advise to a startup. Ask this Ikigai question when you start your company. Okay? If you're doing something for fun, and the world doesn't need it, that's not a good startup for any investor to invest.
Interesting. So another question I have, like, our KPH community got products and one of the common things over the years, we are very excellent good at making products right now. And Mumbai, that was an issue. Maybe years before that was an issue, right? Now it has got very easier, and now we were struggling in sales, especially B2B products, enterprise sales selling. How do you think that can be sorted out with the...
It's not a unique problem. And I was speaking from TurboStart's experience. We have a lot of companies like that too. Like they are very good at creating products. And then we have a center of excellence called Outrange, which you can find on the website. What they do is they become almost an extension of their sales and marketing engine. These are experienced people in every country, like US has one, and India has a big one, and Middle East. So they will look at the product and say, how can you access the market? How can we help you sell as an extension of the startup? The startup then signs up with this center of excellence. So I think in general that model, that's a TurboStart model, but there may be other models where professional experienced sales engines out there who can complement the startups to access US market. This is something that I talked about in my presentation at Huddle. Like to scale in the US, okay, you need to have local
Yes.
ability to partner with somebody, somebody can take your product to the market, kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I can give you like n number of after the even podcast. I can give you n number of products which lack that particular thing.
Yes. So
which could really take it off if they had that.
yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one missing link for Indian startups.
Yeah.
Great product, great ideas. And the other thing I would say in general about Indian startups which are making hardware products
Okay. Yes.
is something called industrial design. So if you take Apple, any product that they come out, how it looks, it's so beautiful. Like the aesthetics and how it looks, that's called industrial design. A company called Frog used to do that very well in Silicon Valley. So what we need to do is when we create a robot or something, make it look good in the eyes of the investor. It might technically work very well, but let's make sure that the industrial design is paid attention to. So there is a need for leveraging. There are industrial design companies in India, but maybe the startups in Kerala who are building this hardware, maybe spend a little bit of money working with this to make it look industrially profile. Because the Western investors are used to seeing very nice looking product, not the technical gory details of how a robot works.
Last half an hour, we covered your journey and how you are paying back to Kerala as well as through investing and all. So some of the things I got interested in, one is Thai. You came to here, attended Thai events. So what is Thai and how is your relation with Thai over the years as well?
Yeah. The Thai is a global organization that was founded 32 years ago in Silicon Valley, and it's a worldwide organization of entrepreneurs, and it's got 66 chapters now in many countries, and Kerala has one called Thai Kerala, and so does other cities in India. So I had attended the Thai Kerala here, as well as Thai Global Summit in Bangalore this last week. So for example, Dallas, where I come from, Thai Dallas is a very vibrant chapter of Thai. And it's mostly people like me who are entrepreneurs who are giving back to, and the members who are some of the younger members who are joining, they're probably like the members of your KPH who would benefit from being part of this organization. So if you look at Kerala network, right? Kerala's Thai network, they have members from Kerala Angel Networks, Malabar Angel Networks, they're all part of that. So it's a very vibrant organization. So in Dallas, for example, I started this group for Thai Dallas Angels, which has grown in the last 2 years to about 75 angels.
Oh.
We have invested in some very interesting companies. One of them in particular, I happen to be an early investor before the angels invested. It's called Neuro Rehab VR. They use virtual reality for rehabilitation. It's an Indian founder, and she has done a great job creating that company. And similarly, there are other companies that right now we are invested in from the angel group, and very cool companies.
Interesting. Angel network, what does that mean?
The angel network is mostly we go very early stage when nobody else believes in it. After the friends and family round, we actually look at the potential of these companies, and angels put money in. We form a group like a LLC, and we invest as a group into the company, and then we give them help and things like that. So that's been a model. The 6 or 7 companies that we have entered and invested, they're all doing well.
So IAC കോളേജിലാണ് പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. And IAC is, I remember ഞാൻ കോളേജ് പഠിക്കുന്ന സമയത്തൊക്കെ I wanted to get into IAC, but I could not get in. And now I'm here interviewing someone in. So and you also distinguished alumni of IAC. Right? So what is that collaboration like?
Well, Indian Institute of Science has a lot of interactions with my life, right? As I mentioned, as a young guy, it was in the formative years, it was very influential. Then when I got into corporate life, I wanted to go to the best universities in the world and fund them to do some real research for us in the wireless space. And one of them was IISc. I was able to give back some money to get some research done, just like I did with Stanford. So it's a world-class institution, number 1 in India. And I also now have found that they're building a medical school and a hospital on campus
Oh.
to branch into the medical field to create MD, PhD programs. And I'm right now running a foundation in the US called the IISc Foundation to give back again, to raise money for IISc at the alma mater. So this Distinguished Alumni Award I received was a big surprise. It's very selective. They give it to a select number of people. This year, I'm lucky to be able to receive that.
Interesting. What other organizations are you part of, apart from?
Tech Titans is one of the other another organization I've been part of. I've been on the board for many years. It's a technology organization of all the major companies in the U.S. That are in the Dallas area, for example. And I've been on the board, and they recently inducted me into their Hall of Fame, which was again another surprise for me. It was very well, received from my end, because it was a very big honor for me. Yeah.
Awesome. And it's because of the tremendous work you've been contributing back to the society, even though you could, after you sold your company, you could actually not look any of this back and on your way, but you still chose to
Yeah.
come back, right? And that when is that behavior? And how?
Yeah, that's again, life has got three different phases. One is called learning, then is earning and returning, right? So I've gone through the learning at IISc and other university, and then earning phase with Northern Telecom and Globe Ranger and others. And now I'm in the returning phase, where with IISc Foundation, TurboStart, Angel Networks, helping. Hopefully, at the end of the day, I've left some legacy in this world. First thing is with wireless revolution. I've looked back and I feel very good that I've been able to influence the people's life, right? Human beings' life. Now, hopefully, a few entrepreneurs in a few years from now said, "Hey, this guy had something, help me a little bit." So that's what I'm looking forward to in the returning phase.
Interesting. And that's and thank you for doing that, and thank you for being the podcast as well. And it means a lot to hear some our words as well. And open then some of the rapid questions.
Okay.
From it's a rapid fire segment, right? So some of the books which you recommend apart from Ikigai. I remember you mentioned Ikigai. Also one of my favorite books as well, right?
Yeah.
What are the other books you recommend?
Yeah, Blink will be one of them. Yeah, that you can read. Any entrepreneur who's actually looking at disruption and things like that would be something. And one of the other books recently I read, this is since you're asking from Kerala, the God's Own Entrepreneurs. There's a book by Roshan, the Mother Bhumi guy. So they feature some of the Kerala entrepreneurs. So I'm really bringing that up because people who they can relate to, okay, people who have built businesses, their stories are being told by Roshan in this book. So I would say one from Kerala here, and then there are a lot of books that are obviously in the business books that you can read.
And some of the podcasts you listen to, any other podcasts you are listening to?
Several of them. I actually have my own podcast, which is called Venture Voyager, and actually very selective in what topics I cover. There is not every a month or anything like that. It just very periodically we come up with it. So then obviously in the whole network of Thai and all this, there are a lot of podcasts that I listen to.
Now you can listen to KPH podcast as well.
Yes. Yeah, now I'll add KPH to the list of podcasts, and I will be next time when somebody asks me a question,
Awesome.
I'll talk about that.
Good to hear that.
Actually, I've listened to some of your podcasts recently, and they're very interesting, engaging podcasts.
Which one do you like the most? Or?
There was one in particular about one with Arjun Pillai, I think.
Yeah.
That's one I enjoyed a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Arjun Pillai is coming. നാളെ നമ്മളൊരു മാസ്റ്റർ ക്ലാസ് ഹോസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. So KPH is also hosting events and meetups. We host events across Kerala twice a month, every 2 months, and we also have master class events with our guests, and one of the things KPH does here.
Yeah, you're doing a tremendous job creating a product ecosystem here, which is what this state needs.
Yes, and that's that is the thing. Okay, this is going to be a funny question.
Yeah.
What is a hidden talent of yours?
Hidden talent is two things I can mention. I'm a visual person. When I look at something, a page, for example, I don't see the lines, I just see the whole thing together, which is, as a real example, when I was a kid in school, they had this competition, which was like ഒരു ടേബിളിൽ കുറേ സാധനങ്ങൾ വെച്ചിട്ട് ഒരു ബെഡ്ഷീറ്റ് അതിന് മുകളിൽ വിരിച്ചിടും. Then you lift it up and the kids get to look at it. Then you write down the maximum number of things you can write down. The kid wins, right? In my case, I discovered very early that I will draw the picture.
Okay.
I'll write everything that in where the thing was. Not only list everything, I was able to say where everything was there.
Oh wait, so you have like a visual memory. You
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah. So
Once you see it, you cannot forget.
yeah, so when I became a corporate executive, many of the people who presented to me, they learned very quickly that they can get my attention by presenting things visually,
Wow.
as opposed to a long memo.
That's a superpower. It's not a talent; it's a superpower.
Yeah, that's also I study also when I studied as a student.
Uh-huh.
Always wrote everything that I wanted to in a sheet of paper, big sheet of paper, and just look at it before the exam. So that is one thing. The second one I've already mentioned, which is ability to look at a team put together like a symphony conductor.
Okay.
How-
What does that mean?
Yeah, like if you look at an orchestra conductor, so that person knows a music particular score you're going to play, a particular song, right? Then you have a violin section, all different wind and all this kind of things, right? So you choose the right player and the right instrument so that the music comes out right. So which is pretty much what any team you build, a startup or a big company thing, you need to have the best people playing the best instrument kind of stuff. So that skill somehow God has given me to be able to complementarily put teams together and create the best execution team. So when I go in to help a startup, one of the things I do is look at the team and say, how can I make this better?
Interesting. What else are you thankful for in this?
I'm thankful for the ability to be able to influence the world in some fashion, in my own small way. And this, so far, when I look back, I feel very satisfied. Tomorrow, if I finish my life, I've done something and left behind.
You're proud of the impact it created.
Impact created and also helped a legacy, left a legacy. It's not about money. It's much more than money.
Interesting. What is the most exciting trend in tech right now, from your point of view?
I think it's going to be the whole issue of AI. Everybody talks about it, but let me give you a real example. When mobile networks came out, right, which is the country that had the two countries that had the most penetration of mobile networks, India and China. The reason is both of them didn't have any infrastructure of wired telephone to speak of.
Okay. Means Laila.
You won't even relate to a wired telephone. Like the telephone that had wires coming into your home.
Landline phone.
Landline phone, right? We didn't have much of an infrastructure in India. So what happened when the mobile networks came? It just took off because nobody had to worry about. Whereas in the US, it was a big issue. Everybody had landline, so that the wireless phones were like an option for people to buy. Whereas here, that became the primary way you did it. So my theory is here, the way India will, for example, payment, for example, I go, now I don't need carry cash with me. I can do Phone Pay and Google Pay and things like that. So adoption, when human beings are making their lives easier, technologies that make them easier, India adopts that very quickly. Mobile phones, this digital payment, when in India opened up, I predict AI will be the same thing with India.
Wow.
Okay,
Because how do you think that's going to look like?
Because we're going to make technologies that will be useful for human beings to do their life better. If let's figure out some things that suddenly you are able to figure out things much faster than somebody else, right? And so that part, suddenly a business person or somebody on the street will say, oh, let me push a button on my phone with AI. It gives me the answer. I'm just giving an example. Something AI-based technology will come in. India will adopt it a lot faster. And I'm saying if Kerala can differentiate itself by creating some of these things that will make people's life easier, we can become the center for some of those kind of things, because this market is going to take off.
I mean, it's an open healthcare network and a lot of
Yeah.
things are happening.
Diagnostics and things like that. There's a lot of
It's not talked about more. I
yeah.
think things
So
are,
the intersection between technology and healthcare, for example, AI is a big player in that whole space, right? Yeah. One of the things a gentleman by the name of Michael Gorton, he's written 4 books in this area, but he says, like, we have all these devices that are on us right today, watch, like which collect the Apple Watch, you have a Fitbit, all these things, collecting data from your body, but it's not being integrated into something that is meaningful for me as a person. A doctor can look at. So so he's got a concept called digital medical home. Okay. So to me, if that digital medical home can be implemented in Kerala, for example, and then it built for India, it'll be a tremendous thing for diagnostics, detecting cancer, those kind of things.
What other industries are you excited about personally? Yeah.
I'm actually anything to do with human beings, making them life better, make their life better. It's healthcare or anything like that. So I'm not so much into, like machinery and that kind of stuff. It's mostly software and algorithms and things like that. So anything that makes it easier.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Next question. What is your go-to tech gadget?
Oh, which is another part of my life which many people don't know. Maybe some people know. Is there are the joke that there are 10,000 people in the world who would buy anything that comes out, and I am one of those people. So I have collected gadgets in my home. If you visit my home in Dallas, I have a museum of all the technology. The first Apple Newton, the first IBM PC. I've collected this, and it's a hobby of mine. So showcase, yes, yeah. In fact, I can send you a picture of this one.
Yes, please.
It's a very interesting hobby, but at the same time, it also lets me look back and say, this is the different phases of my life. I collected these things when this thing came out. So I can remember when the IBM PC came out in 1980, kind of stuff. Right?
Damn, another site like walk through the memory lane as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I've organized them pretty nicely. So you're welcome anytime you come to US.
Definitely.
Come, I'll show you and eventually I will donate that to a museum. That's my goal, that it will be beneficial for people. The first trunk-mounted cell phone, all the mobile phones that have ever come out, I have got pretty much a good collection.
Cool. IoT, 5G and AI. These are some of the areas you already worked in past as well, right? What do you look in next 10 years or 20 years, and how that going to look like with this?
I think the mobile phones as you see today will not be the same anymore. Like it'll become, obviously today if you look at it, it's got the power of an IBM PC or even a big computer in your palm right now, right? So the computing power and the ability to execute much bigger algorithms and things like that. So your device will become distributed. It might be your glasses might have a display. You might have something else on your phone which is a different form factor. So the way the gadgets will look around you will be very different, and how you communicate between. Today it's all text and WhatsApp and all the stuff. This will be over someday in 20 years from now, kid will say, what is WhatsApp? Okay, because they'll be communicating in a much different mechanism between each other. Maybe two people wearing glasses communicating with each other just by winking or whatever, right? Those kind of things will be very different. The human computer interface will be very different. Okay, and you can see that people like Elon Musk are spending time in the human computer interface, chips that you're talking about. So all those things are going to completely revolutionize the way human beings are able to access information.
Interesting. So when you said Elon Musk, so what is your thoughts around Elon Musk?
Oh, he's a brilliant guy in the sense that he's doing some things that people will think that is crazy right now, but it's got completely disruptive end, like, and he's got the muscle and the money to make that happen, kind of stuff, right? So to me, he's a lucky guy. If I had the idea to just disrupt something, it required a lot of money. I had to go to somebody to raise the money to do. But for him, he can just invest in and make it happen, which is obviously made him the richest man in the world, who just cost 440 billion,
Yeah.
which nobody has ever done.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
നമ്മൾ ഈ KPH പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റിൽ വരുന്ന എല്ലാ ഗസ്റ്റിനോടും ചോദിക്കുന്ന ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആണ് ഹെൽത്ത്, വെൽത്ത്, റിലേഷൻഷിപ്സ്. നമ്മൾ മോസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ ടൈം ഇതൊക്കെ ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് വെൽത്ത് ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യാനാണല്ലോ. ആൻഡ് യു ഹാവ് ടു ബാലൻസ് അതർ three, but even if you don't have health, it's very hard to even do any of these things, even relationships and so how do you manage that three pillars? Or maybe you can add spiritual. I mean, I remember you mentioning God in part of the conversation, right? Spiritual also. I mean, you do pillars, how do you view that?
I'm feeling that you're here again, they're going back to the ikigai concept, right? The reason you're on this planet is there is a purpose behind it. Once you identify what that purpose is, then everything falls in place. So just take an entrepreneur, for example. Most of the time they're really depressed or going through rough time because they haven't identified what the purpose, why are they doing what they're doing, kind of stuff. Once they clicks, then everything falls in place. They're able to handle their stress better, all those things, until somebody helps him or her to figure out that purpose. So that's where I would start first. To health, wealth, and all this other stuff. To me, wealth is not the most important part, right? It's you have to have all of them balanced in some way. For example, if you ignore your health and you chase wealth, you know how long you're going to enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
You may not have the health to enjoy your wealth, for example.
So do you work out, or what is your health?
I do to the extent I can. When I'm able to, when I'm on vacation, it's a very different story. But if I'm at home, yeah, it's very. My wife also helps me. She's a big, obviously, supporter of making sure that everybody eats well in the family and things like that. So we go into more of a much better diet when we are at home, kind of stuff, as opposed to when I'm traveling, kind of stuff. So pay attention to diet. And the other thing I'm personally, which is people talk to me and say, people of your age group have already retired and slow down and everything. How come you keep going like this? For me, one of the things I keep saying is keep going. If you slow down, you're going to slow down big time. So keep on going. So that's
Inertia, it's one of inertia. If you like
inertia. To start again is very difficult, right? So keep going until you finish tired or whatever it is. So so the energy. Every day I wake up with some energy to do something different. At the end of the day, I can say I've done something like that. So today is one of the things I can say I have been able to interact with KPH.
Yes.
So which is a big tick mark.
Yes. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, and tell me about your relationships and wife, and how has that been?
Well, I've been I talked about this many times, because I went to Canada after I finished ISRO. I applied to many universities because you have to get a scholarship, right? So I got admission in Brown University, which is a Ivy League school, and then other places. But I didn't know at the time there was no internet or anything like that. That Brown was such a big school. So I looked at the map and it was a very small place. I said, I'm not going there. I want to go to a bigger place. I ended up in Canada, in University of New Brunswick. And God had built it already, because my wife came a week before me as a student, undergraduate student.
Okay.
So I met her, and chances of a girl from Vaikam and me from Kollam meeting is very zero here. So we went there and we met, and she's been my best friend. And in the sense that we had a very long marriage and relationship. At the same time, she's been my biggest cheerleader. And when I was busy with handling 4,000 people around the world, and she became the CEO of our house.
Interesting. CEO of the house.
Yes.
And what about your kids then?
We have 2 daughters, and they both are university professors. They did their PhDs. One is a social psychologist, the other one is a political scientist. So they both are in Dallas. We are lucky to have them both in town. So we have 3 grandkids, and They're
Big family.
family. Some of God's blessings. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, as you said, balance is important. Health, wealth.
Okay, I mean, of the last 1 hour, we had a really good discussion and conversation with George Brody. And any ending notes for the viewers who are watching it at their home or in the phone or maybe in the car or anywhere? The podcast, പലർക്കും പലയിടത്താണ്. So, what is the ending notes you have to say?
Dream big, and you shoot for the moon, and you might come up a little short, but you're going to make it. So I think I'm wishing the next time when we talk to you, there'll be Unicorn or a Zoho like company from Kerala.
Goosebumps അടിക്കുന്നു. പറയുമ്പോൾ goosebumps അടിക്കുന്നു. Okay, yeah, definitely. I mean, that is also one thing we are very excited about. I hope that will be a next level chapter for Kerala, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm very bullish. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, George Brody, for being on the KPH podcast. And that's George Brody for you, right? Yeah, thank you.
Good. Enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise. ഈ ഒരു വീഡിയോ സ്പോൺസർ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത് KPH തന്നെയാണ്. KPH എന്ന കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി 2017 ഒരു വാട്സപ്പ് ഗ്രൂപ്പായി തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ എത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നത് 1000+ സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പ് ഫൗണ്ടേഴ്സും ടോപ്പ് 1% ടാലൻസും ഒരുമിച്ചുള്ള ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയാണ്. ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ത്രൂ തന്നെ പല കമ്പനീസും നേരിട്ട് ഹയർ ചെയ്യാറുണ്ട്. ഈവൻ ഫൗണ്ടേഴ്സ് തന്നെയായിരുന്നു നേരിട്ട് ഹയർ ചെയ്യാറ്. ഒപ്പം ടോപ്പ് 1% ടാലൻസിനെ ഡിസ്കവർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയ ഏറ്റവും അടിപൊളി സ്ഥലം കൂടിയാണ് KPH കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി. അപ്പോൾ KPH കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിന്റെ ഒരു ജോബ്സ് ഗ്രൂപ്പ് നമ്മൾ ഓപ്പൺ അപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട് ഫോർ ദ ജനറൽ ഓഡിയൻസ്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് KPH കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിൽ ഭാഗമാവാൻ താല്പര്യമുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ യു ക്യാൻ ചെക്ക് ഔട്ട് ദ ലിങ്ക്. ഇതൊരു മെമ്പർ ഓൺലി കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയാണ്. ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു മന്ത്ലി ഫീ പേ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിൽ ഭാഗമാവാൻ പറ്റാവുന്നതാണ്. മേക്ക് യൂസ് ഓഫ് ദിസ് ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി. അത് വളരെ ഫിൽറ്റേർഡ് ആണ്. ഇത് എത്ര മാക്സിമം 1000 ആൾക്കാർക്കാണ് ഇത് പോസിബിൾ ആയിരിക്കുള്ളൂ ഈ ഗ്രൂപ്പിൽ. അപ്പോൾ മേക്ക് ഷുവർ യു ചെക്ക് ഔട്ട് ബിഫോർ ദാറ്റ്. നൗ ബാക്ക് ടു ദ വീഡിയോ.